discussed about add custom attribute in the data model and add custom entity type in the data model as a part of enhancement of data model. Uh, Categorically, we discussed regarding the material master. And while doing that, particularly uh, add custom attribute in the data model and add custom entity types in the data model, we talked about the reuse mode and flex mode, okay, and the necessary configuration related to that. So we talked about the procedures, uh, what needs to be followed if I need some custom fields to be used as a reuse mode, and also we have seen the flex mode as well, what are the steps needs to be done. Similarly, for business partner and finance, we are going to see today. So let's start with first the Genil model. Okay, so there are two concepts which is categorically for business partners, not for material, not for finance, or not for uh, any other uh, data model. It is only related to the business partner. When I'm talking about business partner, I mean including customer master and vendor master. Okay, because as we discussed in the earlier session that we had a very detailed discussion regarding the business partner. So where business partner, we have the hierarchies like vendor master and customer masters. Also we talked about if I want a vendor master data to be created, then I need to create the BP details first along with the ERP vendor details. Similarly, if I want customer master details to be created, then BP details along with the ERP customer details. So this is how it works. So if I quickly go to, so this is NWBC, which is NetWeaver Business Client, and this is the Launchpad, where you can see the list of roles. So we will talk about that, about this NWBC roles, etc. The reason to come here, just to show you how it actually look like as a part of MDG change request. So let's say create material. So this is called initial screen. Anyway, we will have all those details discussion in the following chapters. Just I'm coming here to show you how it look like the MDG change request for material master, similarly for supplier and customer. So I'm just giving some change request type for material. This change request type concept we will discuss basically under the process model chapter. Okay, in Internet Explorer it takes little time, but anyhow, Chrome is also not working. I'll check with that later. Anyway, so this is called change request. So for an example, this one you can see the change request details, which is having change request ID, the description, priority, due date, reason, status, type of change request, etc. Who has been created, when has been changed, etc. Followed by the basic details, the material number. This is the temporary number. Once we have uh, all the approval take place, we will get the permanent number. Followed by some basic details like base unit of measure, material type, industry sector, material group, authorization group, old material number, and so on. Then followed by some description, okay, followed by different languages. This is the kind of a long description, and then classification. Okay, so the class type for material always it will be 001. Okay, then you can choose the respective class and then the characteristics, and followed by some GT number, basic text. So these are all. Okay, sales information. There will be this is the old GUI, so that's what you don't have enough information. While we will set up the UI configuration, we will take the updated, or rather the latest UI screen, where you will have uh, the options like sales data, plant information, MRP data. So these are all. So this is like a change request. And once you fill all the data, you just submit it as a requester. And that will go to your approvals, whatever the levels you have based on your workflow. And then finally, after the necessary approval, it will activate and it will create the permanent material number. And the material number will go to MDG database table and also will replicate to the target system. Whatever the target system you have, it could be ECC, it could be S4 HANA, or it could be MDM, or it could be any other system. Okay, so this is uh, like a material. Similarly, if I show you how, let's say, supplier governance work, So in supplier governance, let's say you first search supplier. Hmm, yeah. So supplier governance. So in the supplier governance, we are in the search criteria. So either we can search with the business partner ID, or we can search with the vendor details, whatever the vendor details we have. Or if we don't have any vendor BPID or vendor to search, we can directly create from here. So new organization, person, group. That means uh, the vendor which you are trying to create, whether it is an organization or it is a person or it is a group. Always remember that for uh, for most of the project, it will be like a organization. Sometimes it can be person, particularly when you are going to deal with employee vendor, then it will be a person. And sometimes it could be group as well. But most of the cases, it will be an organization. So if I click here, this is a kind of a change request type, which uh, by default it is available. Whatever it is available, I'm just using it. Whenever we will have a time to configure, we will configure according to our requirement. Okay, so this is the change request. Again, you can see the change request ID, description, priority, reason, who has been created, when has been created, type of change request, then followed by what you see here, the supplier details. Actually, it is not a supplier details, rather than it is a business partner details. Because you can see here, this is business partner ID, business partner account group. So here I can select the business partner account group. So lots of account group I can see here. Okay. So let's say this is the account group I'm selecting for an example. Okay. Then followed by some description, search term, and similarly the address details. It could be okay, street, house number, postal code, country, language, transportation zone, and the communication details if necessary. Then followed by roles. So which are those roles I need it? So this is a supplier one. So if I select the supplier role, mm, this one, you can see this is for FLCU00 is for FI customer. FLCU01 is FI, basically 00 is FI customer company code. FLCU0001 is customer master for sales org. Similarly, for FLVN00 is for vendor master company code, and FLVN01 is for vendor master purchase org. So for me, this too is important because it is a part of vendor master. Either I can select it from here or directly I can type here. Okay. So these are the two roles, then followed by the bank account details. So bank account details will have like a bank key, bank name. So if I just open, so this is the bank ID, bank country, bank account number, bank key, IBAN details, and these are all information. Okay. Then followed by the tax number. And then you have ERP vendor. So whatever we discussed so far, these are all business partner details. That is what I was talking here. Business partner details, we have BP general data, address details, bank details, tax details, role details, then followed by company code purchase order for vendor. Similarly for customer, company code and sales order. So now if I move on, here ERP vendor. So let's continue to create. And here is company code and here is purchase org. So if I click on company code, I can select the necessary company code and some reconciliation account, which is nothing but a kind of a GL account. Some random values I'm selecting, doesn't matter. Payment terms. So these are all kind of a reference data. So done. Similarly, I need to do for purchase order. Payment terms. Okay. Okay. Then enter a value for country key. Anyway, that is, you'll see, but these are all information. Country, let's say Netherlands. Okay. So then after having all this information, you can submit. And similar way, the change request will go to the approval levels, and based on the necessary approval, you will have the business partner number as well as the respective vendor number. Okay. So this is how it works. Similarly for customer as well, the same scenario will continue. Okay. So the reason I'm talking about this, before I start the Genil model, at least you should know in reality how it works in terms of change request. So that's the reason I just went to the change request and I have just walked through how it looked like. Now coming to the Genil model. So what is exactly the Genil model is all about? So Genil model is basically a kind of a middle layer. And when it is required only for the business partners. What happens when you have a certain requirement to to maintain some custom field as a flex mode? Normally what we see yesterday for reuse mode and flex mode for material master, this is the configuration which we need to take care. Okay, but if it is a case of business partner flex mode, so I'm starting with flex mode, then I will come to the reuse mode. So if I will say that I have a custom field in business partner and that field I want to use as a flex mode, then what are those steps I need to do? So let's go to the system. I have created one example just to save our time. So I will explain that example. So MDG IMG, general settings, data model, edit data model. So business partner, entity type. Here what I have done, I have created couple of entity type under the business partner, like what I did yesterday for material. What are those entity types I have created? So if you go down, this is the two entry which I have uh, taken. That is Z info record and Z Matner. Now don't get confused with Matner. You will think that we have a material for data model. What exactly? This is just a material number as a custom field which we introduced in business partners. It has no relation with data model. So let's be very clear. Okay. So the Z info record and Z Matner, these two entity type I have taken. Now if I explain you closely, so Z info record, you can see I have taken as a type 4 entity. So this is a type 4 and this one I have taken as a type 3. Okay, and this Z info record, if you see, it is just an entity type. Inside this entity type you have an attribute called Z purchase block. Okay, and this is the data element for this. You can take character 10, 20, whatever. I have just taken this data element. Similarly, for Z Matner, if you see, the data element is Matner. And this is not just an entity type, also it represents itself as an attribute. Like what we had yesterday as for material as a Z indicator. Similarly, here Z material also behave similarly for business partner. Okay, so this is the two entity type which I have created. Obviously, as I have created the custom entity type, it was necessary to maintain the relationship. So the relationship which I have maintained first with the leading entity type, BP header. So BP header Z info record, which is a leading relation. First thing. Second thing is the another relation which I have made, that is material number and Z info record, which is qualifying relation, and the cardinality is 1:n. Okay, this is the one. So this is the two relation which we maintain. Now once the relation part is over, what we did, we straight away go to the generate data model specific structure. Okay, and in the general data model specific structure, BP structure. So here, as usual, we have added the entity type, which is Z info record, which is type 4 basically. You can't see that because I did not save them, but I generate the selected structure. So if I show you quickly the generated selected structure, this one. PP header, Z maintainer, and Z purchase block. Okay, this is the information. Yesterday, if you remember, it was material number, and then it was Z indicator, and another one was agent name, right? So this is here. This is for PP structure, and another structure which we have, this one, for BP header, material number, and purchase block for UI field properties. Fine. So this is the generated structure. I made it. I did not save because while saving that, some standard entity type, some other entity type, which is a standard entity type, that was giving some error. So I thought, because if I need to save it, I need to fix those errors. So I said, okay, these are all standard entity anyhow. For me, saving is not important. For me, generated the structure is important. So that's what I just generated it, but I did not save it. Anyway, but the right practice is you need to save it. That's true. Anyway, so once I generated the structure, now the next thing which I did, that is here the couple of structure which I have received. Now this one, what I need, this is the business partner level, the custom field which we have created as a part of material number or Z purchase block. Those custom fields has to be used as a flex mode. So obviously when I'm using the flex mode, there is no point to go to the SMT mapping, because we know that for flex mode there is no SMT mapping required. So that part is minus. So that is not required. Now, if that is not there, then what next? The next thing which I need to do here, that is maintain the general model. Now, in business partner case, we have this equation, like we have a business partner, we have a vendor, similarly we have business partner, and we have customer. But if you look at the material master case, Or if you look at the finance master case, you cannot find such kind of equation. It's a very straightforward. For material, you have basic details, sales, plant, classification, characteristics, blah, blah, blah. And everything is part of material. Similarly, if you see finance, you have company, cost center, profit center, etc., and that is part of finance. But here you have a differences where the business partner is the top level hierarchy, and then you have vendor master and customer master as a bottom level hierarchy. That's what we need to do exclusively the general model structure to maintain, because what happened that when you add some custom field and categorically if you need that custom field to be used as a flex mode for material master or finance master or any other custom data model, the moment you activate the data model, the general model part will be taken care automatically. So that means I'm not saying that the general model is not present for MM or finance or custom data model. It is present. But as soon as you activate the data model, the general model part will be taken care automatically. So you need not to do anything to physically go there and maintain something additionally. But for business partner, it is not that case. You have to come to the general model and you have to maintain exclusively. So that is the problem here, and we have to do it. So basically, if I say general model is nothing but it is a middle layer between data model and UI. Okay, so this general model we need to go and update it. Now, before going to the general model, what we need, so this is one example. So let's say this is the structure, which is the UI field property structure. Now this structure, we went to MDG IMG data model BP Z info record. And here we maintain the entry. Now, what is this? So as you know that since day one, when we discuss the data model, we can see there is one associate structure or table or associate field or the associate cross field. So if I see what is this field is all about. Now if you read here, so establishes the link between the entity type, attribute or relationship and a structure or database table defined in the above dictionary. So when you can specify which table of the reuse area to be used to store the data of the entity type, attribute or relationship. For attributes or relationships, the specified structure is usually mapped to the structure that is also specified in the entity type. However, rare case an entity type is mapped to multiple tables in active area. In this case, for each attribute and each relationship you can specify a different table than one specified for the entity type. And this entry is optional and only serves informational purpose for non-generated element. So basically what is happening, so in when we do reuse mode activity, we simply go and maintain the SMT mapping, right? What we have seen, we maintain like 2 PP and 2 STA, right? But when we are using flex mode, what is our objective? The objective is the data will be reside within the MDG infrastructure or within the MDG framework. That is not going to the database table. So, but ultimately this data will flow, right? And that will flow through some structure or table. So what is that? So that's what we maintain. Whatever the generated structure we have, that structure we maintained here for this entity type. So what is going to happen? Respect to this entity type, whatever the attributes are there, not only that, respect to this entity type, what are the relations entity type which we have, like Z material, that will taken care through this structure. Okay. Similarly, if I come to this field, establish the link between attribute and attribute or relationship and a field defined in the above dictionary that is part of structure or database table. You can specify which field of the reuse active area to be used to store the data of the attribute or relationship. This entry is optional and only serves informational purpose for non-generated element. Okay. So like what happened? Example, you can define attribute called currency code in the data model. Like we have created some custom data model. Similarly, SF is a standard data model for airline process. Okay. And you have for entity type carrier ID. For the above dictionary structure, specify the database table SCAR. For above field, specify the field currency code of the table SCAR. Okay. So that means you have a certain field in this entity type, and if you want that particular field value to be stored in the database table, specific field, that you can specify here. That is the purpose of this field and it is purely optional. Same way, if I come to the X structure, establish the link between an entity type and an associated structure defined in the above dictionary that contains for each resolved attribute a checkbox with the type character with a length 1, which allows the value of space and X. For the entity type, enter the name of the structure. For example, this structure might be used for the service mapping tool SMT to display the fields of the target structure. In this case, the corresponding field of the structure would contain the value X. This entry is optional and only serves the purpose of the non-generated element. The dependencies, the specified structure must be provided checkbox for each resolved attribute. The name of the checkbox is derived from above field name specified for the attribute relationship. So in general, if I say basically, this is also kind of a structure or a table which you can pass, but this is for the X field. Basically the cross flag field which we use here, but this is rarely we use. Normally the one which we use, that is associated structure and table. Okay, so that we have already added. And then active area. So active area is, we know that active area and staging area, right? So here For this particular case, what is going to happen, as we know that this is not going to the database table. Rather, it is going to reside in the MDG framework. That's what we defined the MDG custom active area. So this MDG is nothing but, if you see, the data stored belongs to the master data governance. So here, whatever the data is going to store, that will be reside in the master data governance framework. So that's what we maintain this active area MDG. Okay. So these are all elements which we have added along with this entity type. Now I will go to the Genil model. Now the Genil model, we have a specific transaction which I already maintained here, that is Genil model browser or Genil model editor. Any one of them you can use. Now component set and enhancement. Now what is component? First of all, we are using here Bupa component. Bupa component means what? If I say in a simple way, whatever we discussed here, like relationship between business partner and vendor, similarly business partner and customer, that is all Bupa concept. We called in a short the Bupa concept. And more or less, this is purely the a kind of a detail which is customer oriented, your client oriented. Basically, whatever your client want, those details you can obviously include, and whatever the details you don't need, you can exclude them. So that's what the whole approach, we call it as a Bupa concept. Okay. However, the thing is much bigger than that, but at least if you know this, that's enough for your work. So now the thing is, the component which we are using, that is a Bupa component. Now this Bupa component is the standard component. Now if you want to add something which is a part of standard component, that you can select and you can continue with the changes, which obviously is not the recommended way. Rather than the component set. Component set is something which is, you have a Bupa component. Let's say you copy that as a Z Bupa component. Okay, Z Bupa, let's say. And then you copy the everything and then you start adding your details. So that is another part, which is also not recommended very much. The one which is really recommended, that is the enhancement. So we have the standard component which is Bupa, very good. What we will do, whatever the additional fields we are adding, we will add as a part of enhancement. Okay. So we will add as a part of enhancement. Now, the one which I created, this is the Z info record. Though I have given the similar name, but this is just an enhancement name. Okay. This is the description. The super enhancement is nothing but Bupa underscore customer supplier. CUSP is nothing but customer supplier. Okay. Now here, now come to the data model quickly. Now in data model, what we do in general, if I say, basically we do two things. One is create the entity type and maintain the relationship. These two things. Same way, when we come to the Genil model, we will do exactly two things. One is create the dependent object and maintain the relationship. So first thing which I did, right click, just showing you, right click, create dependent object. So I have already created that. So here is the dependent object. Okay. So I have given the name of the object Z info record in a small letter. In caps, what we have, that is the enhancement name. In small, that is nothing but the dependent object. Then followed by some information. Root object will be always BP underscore root. Attribute structure is nothing but the PP structure which we generated. And key structure is something which we needed to create. So this one we created, which is having basically the business partner ID along with the material number, which is type 3. These two information as a key structure because this is a key field. So that key structure we added here. Okay. And rest of the details will come automatically. Now you see the moment we add this information and save it, we have under the dependent object the key structure, the attribute structure. And you can see under the key structure we have BP ID and material number, which is a key field. And then we have the generated structure where we have BP header, material number and purchase block followed by these details. Then once we created this dependent object, then we come to the root object, expand the root object, expand the relations, right click and create relation. And here this is the relation. So this is the relation which we created. So what is the relation name I have given? The name is this one. Obviously you can give any other name. Source object is BP root and the dependent object is what we have created, the dependent object. Okay. And you can see the moment we define the dependent object name here, automatically the dependent object is reside under the role, under the relation, and that is also having the object like a key structure, attribute structure, and followed by this information what we have seen just under the dependent object. So they are all inner relations. So exactly the way we maintain in the data model, the entity type and the relation, same sort of things we are doing here, but in a different procedure. Okay. So with this, whatever the field we wanted as a flex mode, that is maintained in the genuine data model. One more thing which we need to do, which is also part of the genuine data model, that is, once this is done, you save it, you come back and you activate it. Then what you need to do, you need to come to SM34. In SM34, this is the structure, this is the cluster name. Okay, so this is VC, MDG, BS, Genil cluster. C means cluster. And when you go inside this, you can see Bupa component followed by some business object and BP root. And go to the component of Genil, and here I have added, this one was earlier, so I did not delete anything. Obviously not necessary to delete, you can continue to add, because the thing is, you may have at some point of time, let's say today you have some requirement, then again after 6 months you have another requirement. So that time what you will do? You will create definitely another enhancement, right? And under that enhancement, whatever the necessary custom field you will have in your requirement, you will add that. So same way, what we need to do, like whatever the requirement which we have here, we just maintained under this enhancement Z info record, and this Z info record is in smaller case, which is nothing but the dependent object. So all we need to do, we need to just add the component name, which is Bupa, the dependent object name, which is here the Z info record, smaller case, and
Aditya, we cannot hear you.
the entity type, I will maintain another dependent object, and that dependent object and entity type details I will maintain here. Okay. So this way we can maintain the Genil model, our custom field in the Genil model structure. So this is the procedure for the Genil model. Okay. Any questions so far related to the Genil model?
Aditya, two questions. If you can open the key structure in SE11, please. The one you had created for this one, for the. Yeah. So Aditya, like you have that include structure, right? So you're not adding these fields manually. You found that include structure. Where can we find that include structure?
Right. So basically this is the standard include structure, and this is the standard component type for the root key for a business partner ID. So this is a kind of a you can say it's a standard thing. So in future, let's say I want uh, some other key field like what we have Matner here. Similarly, something called Z field, for an example, as a part of type 3. Then what I will do, again I will create definitely one enhancement. Again I need to create another dependent object, and in that dependent object obviously I need to create another key structure. In that key structure, same way I will just use the same component type for BP ID and add our Z field, whatever I have for a type 3. So this is a kind of thing which probably you can write it down and you can reuse it again and again for BP ID. So that is a kind of a thing which we can reuse it. Okay.
Sounds good. And second question, Aditya, is the Genil model. You said it is only required that the creation of the Genil model and the sub-object and all those things. It's only required explicitly for business partner, and this is only required only in the case of flex mode, right? You don't need if you are using reuse mode in business partner, you don't need the Genil model. Is that right?
Right. Right. Absolutely right. This is the flex scenario. Yes.
Okay.
Reuse scenario, I will come. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm coming. That is the next topic. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And in the case of material, what you're saying is, even though we use the steps for flex mode. Whatever you did in the general model, it is automatically generated, but we don't need to take any explicit action to go to the general editor or go to the view cluster. We don't need to do anything there.
Right. So not only for material, for finance, material, custom object, all these cases, uh, even though you are following the flex mode option for any custom field, as soon as you activate the data model, automatically the general part will be taken care. You need not to come and exclusively maintain the general part. It is only required for the business partners. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So our next discussion is customer vendor integration. Now this example is a part of business partner reuse mode. Okay. Now let me open one document, because that document I really like, which is a SAP standard document. Wait a minute, let me unshare my screen for a while. So I will go through that document. Okay. Now I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So this document is already in the drive. So you can find out this document. So this document is, I will walk through this document, and this document is really good document to understand how to extend for business partner. Whenever I call business partner, by default, you need to assume including supplier and customer. Okay. Even though if I don't mention it, you need to assume that. So data model by new field reuse option. So here, now, what is the scenario? You want to extend the MDG data model for business partner by additional field license. The field should be added under the central data entity type as shown in the figure below. Okay. So we have, however, this example I did not maintain, because anyhow I am explaining from the document. So in the document it is already provided with all the screenshots. So you can probably refer that and you can create it from your end. So here central data. Central data is BP underscore central. This is the central data entity type, which is obviously type 4 and in a relation with BP header. Now what is saying that in our requirement here, we need to create one field called license, and that field should be part of this BP underscore central. Okay, this is the requirement so far, which is part of the central data. Then, so obviously that this is some story like when you add this field, you need to like ensure that this data is going to the respective database table because it's a reuse mode, etc., etc. Anyway, so let's come to the point, and here this is your change request, and this is under ERP vendor. And under the ERP vendor, you can define this field on UI, and this is the field value, let's say you have given. And what is going to happen that when you see this field in LFA1, because it's a part of vendor master, you can see that field value. Okay. Now this structure is very important. What this says? It says that whenever you are adding some field as a part of reuse mode, you have basically three options. Option number one, you add the field under the part of business partner. That means you are adding the field as a part of BP details. Okay. Second option is you are adding the field as a part of vendor or ERP vendor or ERP customer details. That means it will be only part of your ERP vendor or ERP customer details. It will not be part of BP details. That is another option. And the third option is it is part of both BP and vendor or customer. That means at the BP level also it should be there, at the same time in ERP vendor level or ERP customer level. Whatever, like this field can be like when I'm explaining both the things, like it could be part of vendor as well, it could be part of customer as well. Okay. So these three scenario can be possible. Now it is your responsibility being a developer to understand from your customer that this particular field which you are trying to add, whether it will be only part of business partner or only part of vendor or both. Now if you ask me what could be the majority case, obviously it is all depends on your requirement. So there is no hard rule. But if you ask me majority cases, the second scenario is the majority scenario, that it will be part of the vendor masters rather than business partner. Okay. But anyway, we cannot do any casting for that. So that is purely depend on the requirement. Okay. So these three. Now down the line in this document, it will show you in a categorically if you are using the field a part of business partner, what are those configuration you need to do? Similarly, if you are maintaining the field as a part of vendor master or ERP customer master, then what are those configuration you need to do? And if you are using them for both, then what exactly you need to do? Okay. So now go ahead. Now, this is a checklist. So basically, as we mentioned, that if we are only adding the field in business partner, or if we are adding the field only in vendor or customer, or if we are adding the field both in business partner and as well as vendor and customer, then these are all checklists we need to maintain. And what are those checklists? Basically, we need to extend the database table. ERP data model is nothing but it is talking about the database table, like your BP table or your vendor table or customer table, etc. Obviously, reuse mode means obviously if I want only BP, then I need to at least extend BUT 000 table or the other BP table. Similarly, for vendor and customer, I need LFA1 or LFM1 or LFB1. Similarly, for customer, it's KNA1, KNB1, etc. And for both EV1, that is also needed to extend both the database table. So that is one checklist. Second checklist is obviously it has to be part of the data model. So that is also there. Then generate data model structure. Obviously, we need to do all the generated structure to be generated. Then SMT mapping, as we know, reuse mode means SMT mapping will come into picture. So SMT mapping means it will be only part of BP case and it will be only part of vendor case, and here it will be for both basically. Now coming to the CVI mapping, customer vendor integration mapping. The CVI mapping will be only part of the third scenario, not in the first or second, because whenever you have a scenario where you are adding the field in both cases for BP and vendor master or ERP customer master, then only the CVI mapping will come into the picture. Okay, that is one thing. Now, as I was telling, whether I need always CVI mapping? No, it's not required, because as I mentioned that the majority case is the second scenario. If your requirement is part of second scenario, then you need not to do the CVI. But as we are discussing, so we have to cover this CVI as well. Okay. So now CVI means it will be also address the BUT 000 table, which is a part of business partner table, and at the same time it will also address the LFA1 table, okay, which is part of vendor master table. Similarly for customer it will be KNA1 table, let's say. Fine, the same checklist it repeat. Okay, so first it start with extending with business partner. So what it does, first it extend some backend structures, standard backend structure for BP. BUT 000 means it's a BP table, business partner table. Okay, where you have basically the business partner ID and so on. So this is where it is adding the license field as a part of ZZ underscore license as a new field, and this is the data element, which is nothing but character 20. That is one. Then it is extending BUT 000 table, right? This is the database table, so obviously we need to extend that. Then again the X structure. So why these structures are needed to extend? Because when you will do SMT mapping, if you are not extending this structure, your data will not be visible in the SMT mapping. So that's what it is necessary to extend those structures, right? So this is the table part, the structure part. Then you come to the data model, MDG data model, and you extend it. So you go to the data model, BP data model, BP central. Under the BP central, you add the field which is Z license. Okay, provide the data element as well and activate it, and then adjust the profile, adjust the what is called parameters and all, and then check USMD data model. Okay, so once everything is okay, you go and generate the structure. Okay, generate the structure. So generate data model specific structure, go and add. Then which entity type you have to use? BP central, because you have added under the BP central. It is not in the picture, but don't get confused. You have to do the BP central and generate structure. So you can see BP central, this structure will be generated. Okay, here you can see the data. Then coming to the SMT mapping. Now here, this is the SMT mapping name. Now yesterday what I was telling, that for material, this is the structure. which you need to deal, and this is the SMT mapping which you need to deal. Same thing, but here the name is different. You can see the name is, okay, here also slight modification. It's one printing mistake. So it's BP underscore BP means what I'm saying. It's BP underscore BP, not BP. Then followed by central API. Same way, to API, to BP. Sorry, to API, to STA. Okay, so this is the two different structure. For material, the structure name was different. For BP, the structure name is different. Okay, so this is some typing mistake. So this is the actual way, the actual name. So then you go to create and edit mapping or extend mapping. Both are navigate to you in the same page anyhow. So first you open this mapping, and then you have the central data and central data X flag. So one by one, you first target the central data, go to the transformation, select the field mapping, and then yes, obviously you can maintain under the existing field mapping, or you can create a new one for your field. It is showing with a new field mapping, so that is also fine. So then you add your field, your source structure, which is your backend structure. Sorry, not backend structure. This is the generated structure of this data model, and this is the source field. Okay, and similarly the X flag transformation, you add the field mapping, add them, and here this is the X structure and the source field, etc. Then save it. So 2 API is done. Now next is 2 STA. Here it corrected. BP central to STA. Yes. So then open. These are all standard, by the way. These are all standard. You are just adding them, adding with the standard one. So 2 STA, add under the BP central. Again, go to transformation, add whatever you have here, and then adjust the staging. Okay. Once you adjust the staging, then basically, obviously the UI part is also another thing. Until and unless we cover the UI, we cannot test. But it is just showing you so how it look like. So now supplier details, which is nothing but a BP area where you can see BP ID and BP grouping. Here you can define the field, the license. So whatever the entry you will make it after the necessary approval, you can see, or necessary activation, you can see the field will be part of BUT 000, and here will be the value. Okay, so this is very straightforward. When you are using this field under the part of business partner only. Okay. Now next is when you are using this field under the vendor or customer only, then what is going to happen? This is the checklist. So we will follow the checklist. First is edit data model under BP. Now here we have BP underscore Vengeance. If you remember, when I was talking about the standard data model, I was referring that for vendor master general data for BP Vengeance, for customer master it's BP customer Zen. CUSGEN, CUSGN, customer general data. So let's say we are adding under the vendor master. So VenGen, under VenGen we add this Z field. Data element is also there. Then activate it. Then you can see in the staging table. Then you generate the structure. Generate the structure. Same story repeat. Nothing additional. Same story, but only the entity type is different. The structure is different. SMT mapping name is different. Otherwise, same story. Then here, what entity type you need to call? BP underscore VenGen. However, it is not in the picture, but you have to call BP underscore VenGen. Here you can see BP VenGen. Okay, and here will be your field which will be added. Then SMT mapping. So this is the SMT mapping name for supplier. Similarly, if you are using customer, you just instead of supplier and VenGen, it will be like customer. You just type star BP star 2 API. You can also get the customer one in the list. Okay. So this is the 2 API and 2 STA for supplier. So go to extend mapping or create and edit mapping. Both will lead you the same direction. So here, first you add under the 2 API, the central data, add the field mapping, add the field. So this is the one. Okay. Similarly, for X flag, do same way. Then 2 STA, whatever the field mapping we have, just add it and then test. So obviously UI, for this we need to wait for UI, but just to show you that then you can add your field under the ERP vendor, and whatever the data you enter post activation, it will be part of your LFA1 table. So you can see HDXX 4 twos. So you can see this is the field HDXX 4 twos. Okay. Now the third scenario is when you are extending the field both in business partner and vendor master or customer masters. So then whatever you have done, so by this time you already added them in BP and also in vendor master as well. So the only part which you need to do, that is some additional structures you need to maintain. So these are all some structure. Okay. So central data and all. Just follow that structure details. LFA1 anyhow you need to do, even though if you are doing only for vendor, for that also you need to do. Now the only thing which you need to do additionally in this case, that is the CVI mapping, and for that the enhancement you need to go to SE18 and enhancement spot you need to type like CVI underscore custom mapper. Okay, so this is the enhancement spot. Under this enhancement spot you have implementation. Click on the implementation and you can see all the list of standard or custom, whatever the implementation you have, you can see that. Okay, so this is the custom mapper implementation. And now what you can do, you can create your own implementation enhancement. Okay, there you can maintain some implementing class or interface. I can also tell you which one you can follow for this one. However, this is standard. Okay, so you can copy this class, you can copy this interface, and then you can create your Z enhancement. Anyhow, down the line when we will deal with UI, or when we are going to deal with data validations, we will create multiple enhancement and we'll show you how to create the enhancement, how to create all those things. Okay, so we need to create this enhancement. Now, once you create this enhancement and those methods will be part of it, how those methods will be part of it? Because you are using this implementing class and this class will hold the method. So basically the technicality is that first is enhancement. Enhancement will have some body. Body will have some class or interface, and it will have, class will have methods and methods will have logic. So this is the way it continues basically. Okay. Now the next thing is map BP to vendor and vendor to BP. So you can see the method which is available, BP to vendor and vendor to BP. Similarly, if I am doing for customer, then I need to go for BP to customer and customer to BP. So those methods, what I need to do, I need to extend with some logic. What kind of logic? This logic. What it says, map BP to vendor. So this is the central data for license, and this is the partner details of, this is the vendor central data, this is the business partner central data for license, and this is for the X structure. Now in ABAP code, what happens? In ABAP code, the data move from right to left. When it is saying BP to vendor, you can see my right hand side, I have the BP information, and the left hand side I have the vendor information. So basically the data will move from business partner to vendor. Similarly for X structure as well. Right hand side I have business partner, left hand side I have vendor. Next one, vendor to BP. Here you can see right hand side I have vendor data, left hand side I have business partner, and for X structure as well. So basically what is going to happen, we are creating the customer vendor integration for BP to vendor, vendor to BP. And then how it look like once you test it. So basically when you have only BP, then it will be look like this under the BUT 000 table. When you have only vendor master, it will be look like this under the LFA1 table. Sorry, my bad. So then how it look like? The same field, it will be available under BUT 000 as well as the LFA1 and you can see the field value is same, whatever you enter. Okay. So this is how it will be look like. So it will be also go to your business partner table as well as it will go to the LFA1 table, the vendor table. Similarly, if it is a customer, then it will go for the customer table. And this is the UI part. In the UI part, at this moment, I am not going into. So this is the whole story of this CVI part. Okay. Along with this, one more small item which we would like to cover here, that is business partner. We have business partner rules, business partner number range, and business partner account group with number range. How we define this? And similarly for followed by the vendor masters. So that is also a part of whenever you are maintaining the business partner along with vendor or customer, you have to keep in mind this one. So MDG, IMG, you can see master data governance for business partner. Go there, set up business partner, click. First is BP roles. Define BP roles. It will straight away bring you the SPRO configuration. Okay. And here you can see the BP roles. All the BP roles you have. Now normally these are all standard roles. Now if you want to create some custom BP roles, you can create that. Okay, that is one part. Including you can see the vendor role, customer role, etc. etc. Once this is done, then next is the BP number range. Define number ranges. That is also bring you to the SPRO configuration. And you can see this is the number range. Obviously for every project we will create our own number range. Okay. This is the number and this is the range. Now whether it will be external number or internal number. Normally what happens when you are creating the master data in MDG, always it will be the internal number range. Okay. So at this moment, let's say which one we are following, probably this one we are following or this one, because this is not an external number range, this is the internal number range. If it is external, then you have this tick mark, external number range. Okay. We will always go for the internal number range. Then next, BP account group with BP number range. BP grouping and assign number range. So now we know we have the BP grouping. So if you remember here you have the BP grouping. Okay. So those grouping also linked with the number range. Whatever the grouping you will select, based on the grouping you have a different number range linked with. So you can see, let's say grouping 1, this is associate with number range 07. Similarly, grouping 2, it is associate with the number range 02. So this way, BP account grouping associate with the number range. Now this is the BP part. Coming to the vendor masters, same way vendor number range. So go back. So this is done. Now supplier. Expand this, and here set up vendor master for MDG. So the first thing is vendor number range. Come to the setup CVI integration. Create number range for vendor account. Here. So same way you have vendor master and again internal number range. Any vendor you are going to create in MDG, that will be the internal number range. Okay. Then next is vendor account group with vendor number range. Here, number range to the account group. So this is the group and this is the number. So this is for vendor. Similarly, this is for goods supplier. Something it will have like employee vendor and so many employees, lender, third party agent, so on. Okay, special vendor. Next, vendor account group with vendor BP roles. For this one, you need to go this option. Define BP roles. No. CVI part anyhow I will come. Define partner roles. Here. No. Okay. Let's go to. Okay. This is the define vendor roles. So here you can see this is the vendor role for this. And this is basically for BP2 vendor, which is also a part of CVI. BP2 vendor. And same way BP role direction vendor to BP. Vendor to BP. Okay. So this is basically linked with account group and the role. Same way number assignment direction from BP to vendor. Number assignment, so the account group for the BP assigned with the account group or of vendor master. Similarly, number range assignment direction vendor to BP. So what happens that normally we create first like vendor BP number along with the vendor number. But sometimes what happens that however it is a very rare case, sometimes what happens that you provide the vendor number and based on the vendor number you want to create the BP number. So that time it will be required to have this number assignment from vendor to BP. Okay. So the account group of vendor, account group of BP. And same number, obviously you BP number and vendor number you don't, most of the cases is not the same. There are some cases which customer require the same number. Otherwise, we always go for different number range. Okay. So BP account group, this one. So this is the vendor master details. Same way you have business partner, anyway it's done. Then customer master. Same way you have to go for MDG, IMG, customer, integration, and here. So first the number range, this is the one. The number range for customer and so on. Okay. So this is how we define the whole set of uh, roles, number range, assignment of account group with number range, and as well as the CVI part. Okay. So this will, okay. We have similarly for finance. Finance also same sort of thing. Hmm. This document you can follow. This is the document which also available in the uh, our SharePoint site. So basically you can see the extended data model by new field, which is for finance. And this document also spoke about in a very detailed manner, like same steps, just the fields are different, the names are different. So MDG for finance, let's say you have accounting, control, consolidation, etc., etc. Now scenario. The scenario is here. In SAP ECC system, a cost center can be used for joint venture accounting. Joint venture accounting has been an add-on to SAP ECC before SAP ECC 6.0. Starting with ECC 6.0, it is built-in feature that needs activation via business function. In short, need to add under the cost center for joint venture field, recovery indicator field, equity type, joint venture object type, and this field. So basically these 5 fields we need to add. So first thing, here you can see that is joint venture. So this is the entity type. First of all, this is the joint venture entity type, check table. So here we have from page number 10. Entity type name, this one you can give. This is for what? This is for joint venture. Storage type, not changeable via change equal, that means type 3. Data element you can create, okay, and no hierarchy, etc., etc. This one. Then repeat the same for this another 4 basically. Okay, they are all type 3. Then maintain the relations. What are those? From entity, company code. Then next, the another relations from entity, let's say this joint venture entity type is optional to enter a value for the new field. It's an optional. So that's what 0 is to n. This one. Field repeat for rest. Then activate the data model and generate data model specific structures. Okay. So this is the structure which you will get it ultimately. And then so this is the structure for cost center. And then the UI part anyway up to this. Okay, so this is also you can obviously try whenever you have some time. So this document is also very detailed document how you can extend for finance. So having said that, if I see what are those items we have covered. So basically in data model we earlier we covered the custom data model. This week basically we covered the enhancement part. Categorically the custom field, add custom field for BP finance. This one we discussed. We also discussed add custom entity type for BP finance. Then CVI mapping and the general model. So these are all activity we have discussed. In fact, beyond this, we also discussed like number range. These are all things as well. So with this, our data model
Aditya, we can't hear you.
okay. If there is no question, then that's fine. So you
Aditya,
can continue.
so,
Yes,
sorry, I
please.
don't know if it was only on my side. We couldn't hear you after you said you finished the summary on the data modeling. I don't know what you said after that.
Same for me also.
Yeah, I couldn't
Go
hear
ahead,
it
Jim.
either. I have a
Summary
question.
of data model. No. Wait a minute. Huh? So summary of data modeling means this one, right? You
Yeah, you
mean
went through that
when I was
sequentially. Yeah,
explaining?
we finished that one, and that's when your voice
Okay.
got cut.
Yes. So what I was talking about, like we complete this. We talked about the custom data model. We talked about the enhancement part, and particularly these areas we covered. And then what I'm saying that all the necessary documents which we discussed today, it is all in the SharePoint side. What I will do, I will ask coordinator. I will share first of all with coordinator this Excel which we discussed thoroughly. So this will be a kind of a reference details, all of you. So he will also upload this into the SharePoint, and next session we will continue with the process model. So now if you have any questions so far regarding what we have covered, the data model part.
So
Please.
I have a question. So today in the data modeling examples, whatever you covered, you pretty much went through the documentation. So will it be Will you show it in a system a different day, or is it this is how it's going to be?
Regarding the Genil model, I have shown over the system, right? The Genil model part. I hope you were there, right? Hello?
Yeah. So I guess you just went over it, but we actually didn't end up creating any, right? I
But
understand there are
uh,
documents can be followed, but
but the thing is, okay, if you want, I can create it for you. But the thing is,
no,
to
no.
just speed up the discussion, because everything, if I will start creating, I understand your point. If I will start creating everything in the class, because initially 2-3 examples I created, particularly yesterday, whatever I did, I created. At least from there you have one baseline understanding.
Yeah,
Then
of course.
everything, if I will start creating in the session, and more or less we have one day in a week, so I can guarantee you it we will end up 1 year to complete this session.
Yeah.
I can
I
guarantee.
guess that's not I totally understand. That's not possible. We're
Yeah.
not going to.
So that's what
Mhm.
my thought process is.
Mhm.
So at least yesterday I have given you all a baseline, what needs to be created, how it will be created, because this is not a rocket science. This is a quite means if you at least go through this process twice, thrice, at least you have understanding. Okay, where I will go, where I will click, where I will create. So now, particularly for Genil model, what I did, I created this offline, and I have explained that this is the thing in a very detailed manner. Now coming to the one which you are talking about, CVI. Now in CVI, if you see the same procedure which is repeating. Now if the same procedure I'm doing live, that will take the this one example will take the whole session. So that's what I'm saying, that everything what we have discussed, that is something which is same procedure, only the field name is different, the mapping name is different, and the structure name is different, but the process is same and everything is given. So what I'm requesting, that it will be more effective than I create, that you please spend some time offline, and whatever the document I have explained, let's say for an example, you start with, if I would be in your position, what I will do, after today's session, I will first start with the example which I discussed yesterday. I will first go through the video, and parallelly I will go to the system and I will create it simultaneously. So that will be what I have done. You will do exactly the same thing. Okay, no experiment, nothing. Exactly what I am doing, you will just copy that and follow it. So then you will have an understanding like how it will be done, the steps. Then the next thing which you can do, today's session, particularly the Genil model, you can go through what we have, because already it is the same logon client which you also have and which I also did it over there. Just go through it. Similarly, you try to create same way, and then you go to the CVI which we have discussed over the document. You open the document and try the same steps to create whatever the example has been there, same steps. Now whatever, definitely you will have some stop blocker for sure. So whatever the blocker you have, in the next session you come up with those showstoppers, and you say, you know what, this is what I was trying to create. You can probably share your screen. This is what I'm trying to do, and there I have some blocker, and then I will look into it, I will fix it. This will really, you will learn the things quickly, rather than, if you want, I have no problem. But the thing is, the sessions